Mr. President, there's no doubt, that you are adored abroad because of the aggressive way you are marketing, this country. But at home, even with the many successes that you have tabulated, there is growing discontent among some of the electorate and the citizens. How do you explain this? And related to that, recently, you lamented that some of the ministries were underperforming. What decisive action are you taking? And being a senior journalist, a very quick one, this is important, Mr. President. Recently, you advised your predecessor.
You're breaking the rules of the engagement.
As a senior citizen, and
the moderator is
since you have you have abused me, sir, and I can abuse you, sir. Yeah.
I take that one.
Thank you, sir. Mr. President, recently you advised your predecessor to retire from politics. How significant is this? What would be the impact on the country's governance? And what is your reaction to those calling for a reconciliation meeting? Meanwhile, the former First family are complaining that they're being harassed. Thank you, Mr. President.
Vamutubila. Growing discontent at home. I take note of what you say. But in a way, I've touched it already, that there is a process, there's some pain as you reconstruct the economy. Frank, at least you are old enough to know what happened towards in the late 80s. You know what happened. Younger people may not know that story. It sits in there. You can look at that graph. The pain was there. And when change took place in 1991, again, numbers online. Just check that, Frank. You see that that pain continued from 1991 election, when Zambians decided it's time to move to another team of public sector managers. It all was exacerbated after 1986 elections, Frank. 1988. I'm wrong. My apologies. 1988. 2 years later, there was a food riots there. Then the elections were brought forward by 3 years. Instead of elections happening in 1990, by 2 years, I think, 1993 or so, 1991. But after the change for President Chiluba, may his soul rest in peace, who now brought in different policies to address the failure of the government of 27 years. Younger people don't know that. And that's where we have sometimes a bit of responsibility to teach the young people how bad we were and why we should not allow ourselves to go back there. And we did allow ourselves to go back there in a few years. It's not right. So you see, Frank, 1991 elections take place. You're checking on that shit, right? The problems of restructuring the economy lingered on, and 1994, we went down by growth dramatically. But President Chiluba had already started planting the seed, digging the foundation. You heard me talk about digging the foundation here. 4 years later, from 1991, 3 years later, the fruit was not yet ripe. And we dipped down and started again. It takes a bit of time. So that's my answer to your question. It's Zambians to understand that graph, that we're on the right path. Any reversal to what we're doing would damage us as a nation. And I think that is what I would say around the discontent. The discontent is a build-up of the damage that was done 10 years earlier. And we are healing that damage, as it happened to President Chiluba. May his soul rest in peace. We take President Chiluba for granted. He's gone. But today, you have no queues for buses. But it took up to 1994, 1995 to see that fruit. But today, Zambians want to see the fruit in 1 year, 8 months. But the seed is there. That's what I would say. You tagged another question. The only one allowed to do that. Underperforming ministries. I think you have noticed some changes we're making. I actually said maybe not to the satisfaction of everybody, but we are also a fair leadership. When you come from depression like that, you know that the civil service itself got affected over the years in underperformance. But we have changed as many as possible. We will continue to do that. That's why we put a program like PPDF, PDU, to assist those that are willing to change. Frank, those that are not willing to change, I'm afraid we have to part ways, because our interest is service to the people of Zambia who elected us into office. That will be my comment. But I also encourage citizens, you know something that we don't know, let us know. Tip someone. Tip someone. Third question, Frank, you raised was about retirement. That was purely a legal issue. Purely a legal issue. I started with myself that when I've done my time, I'll retire and go and look after goats. The goats are waiting for me. They need my attention. And I love them so much. And I think they love me. Because you can see how they multiply when we give them more time and attention. On a more serious note, it's a legal issue. You cannot be in retirement and yet you're in politics. The law does not allow that. At the beginning, Frank, we talked about restoring the rule of law, isn't it? This is part of the rule of law. So who is offending who now? HH is not offending any individual targeting anybody. It is the law that is being offended. You cannot be in politics, yet you are retired and you are receiving retirement benefits, which is anchored on the law that says you must retire. I hope I'm making myself clear here. Let me extend the answer to your dry but loaded question. The law is clear. When the president, former president retires, they must not stay in politics, and the emoluments they get are based on the law, and they are provided for in the law. Today I see a headline in one of the newspapers to say, no, HH lied. It wasn't 13 policemen, it was 8. Okay. I asked the Secretary of the Cabinet, is he? Is there? I said, please, can you deal with that? Me, I'm given information to interpret the law. The law is clear. But in this case, if there was misinformation, it's the Cabinet Office. Is that my problem? It's the Cabinet Office. So what we've agreed with the Secretary of the Cabinet, he will clarify today that statement. What does the law say? How many policemen were there? But what I know that even 8 is offending the law. Even 4 is offending the law. Because the number is 3. So now you can see the malice in there. What's the malice that HH lied? Honestly speaking. You can see how we've reduced things. The substance of the matter is not 13 or 8. The substance of the matter is that has the law been offended? The law has been offended. It's not HH. Frank, because you are a good man. On that day, I was not around when that hullabaloo happened. And in the morning, the insults were going at HH. Insults by colleagues that have been in politics for a long time. And I just smiled. Never answered. Never answered. In the afternoon, the charge was laid. A complaint from a citizen. A citizen who is infringed, the law, Bill of Rights. A citizen who is infringed in this country called Zambia territory has a right to complain, and their complaint must be heard. That's in the Bill of Rights. Minister, am I right? And the authorities, be it court or so, don't have a choice. The word is obligation. Am I right, Minister? I may miss the exact word, but it's obligation, Frank, to act. That's the rule of law. But why were the insults directed at HH? Am I the one who complained? Am I the one who received $400? I don't know. To do that. But the insults were loaded to me, and social media was very excited. The charge was laid. It had nothing to do with any minister, the president. It had to do with the law, based on what the law says. So you can see. So, and to claim that HH is harassing a family, it's not true, Frank. You know, sometimes, citizens, we must be fair to each other. Sometimes. Sometimes we must analyze things in a fair and objective manner. Between the two of us, who harassed who? Let's be direct now. Between my colleague ECL and HH, who harassed who? Who is harassing who? Peacefully is living there. The policemen are there. When there was a robbery there, it was found out the people who robbed him were his own cadres. Who discovered that? It is the police, the very police. I was not allowed to use Chipata Airport, Frank. I even asked, I was on the runway for 3-4 hours there during campaign time, official campaign time. My colleague instructed that I must not be allowed to use airports. How do I know? The footage is there. It's there. But citizens choose to ignore all of that and start pretending that HH is harassing the former president. I have no intention to do that, Frank. I was never brought up like that. My brain doesn't work like that. Maybe what people are having difficulty is to accept that I'm not harassing anybody who harassed me. I think that's where the problem is. But get used to that my brain works differently. I should have been dead long time ago. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. It's there. Ngani kumbi ule nilishalifwa. Alifwa ule nilishalifwa ngani kumbi. Ngaka weshepo nkamukanomba takafume. Akafuira mukati. By word of mouth. So now, citizens, can we be fair with each other? If he was being harassed, would he be joking on the roads, public roads? If I joked Frank like that, I went on a road line in 2011, July 2011, I was a dead man. You all know that. But we brought the rule of law, protecting everybody. You talk of pangas. Since we took office, have you ever seen any pangas in the streets being sharpened? In the streets, kwa, kwa, kwa. Can we be fair as citizens and call things by their right names? My brother is free. If anyone is tampering with his freedom, I'm the first one to step in to protect him. I'm the first one. I will be the first one. All we're doing is to follow the law. Frank, when I leave office, I don't want the taxpayer to pay me money and I'm still in politics. I'm still running UPND. The matter is in court, and the court is bringing these issues out, not me. They're arguing on their own there. So how do I become the problem now? We are the solution. Frank, let me tell you why I did what I did, and for the people of Zambia. Once we were declared winners,